that right there, and I'll narrate it when we go back. That right there is the police station. So, you rolling?
Yep.
So this is my old neighborhood. And known as Dutchtown. It's the old name it got many, many years ago. A lot of Dutch settlers and a lot of Rochester history. But known also as the way that I grew up knowing it, known on the streets as Ghost Town. And you know, it's Child Street, J, Maple Street, Marble Street. This is Ames right here. I'm going to take you around where it started, where it all started. You know?
Most I know about here is going up to Child's and then going out that way, dropping off metal and asbestos.
Right. Yep.
Stuff
So
like
Steel
that.
Street, right?
Yep.
Steel Street. Yep. That's right. So we'll ride by like 184 Child Street, which is where it all started, and we can get out.
I wonder if I just flip this camera around here, it would work better so I can see what. I'm just guessing I'm getting you a frame here. There we go.
We're in Rochester, New York, with my man, Bullet Sponge Bob, and showing him around my old little stomping grounds. A lot of memories in this neighborhood. Dutchtown, aka Ghost Town, Rochester's west side. This is Maple Street right here. Spent a lot of my youth right here. BMX bikes, just fucking around, having fun, you know what I mean? When we didn't have any worries, you know what I mean, and any responsibilities.
I didn't know where the heck I was walking once, but I started out on Clifford, and we just wandered everywhere.
Yeah,
I did end up all the way.
then.
We ended up all the way over here to.
This used to be Molly's Market here, but now it's a new management. So this is up and down the street. I just did my road test. Right here. There used to be road tests right here, Maple and Sykes Street. Used to be DMV used to do road tests right there.
Huh.
Right here, they would line up. They stopped doing it. Now when the trees were there, things have changed. You just line up on that side by the guardrail. Guardrail wasn't even there. This is right there, second lot. See that house right next to it? That's 184 Child. That's my house. You know what I mean? That's where I spent the majority of my childhood. 184 Child Street right here.
And we've got the pictures of it being demoed.
Yep. Back there, I have my dog house. We can come back. We can come back and get out, and we'll park. Whatever you want to do. I'll show you up here just really quick. We'll do a little one so we can get fresh from the start here. So this used to be, growing up, this was always Maple section. This used to be a firehouse way back, but since 1980, since the 60s actually, 70s, it's been Maple section. Now it's the tacticals. Now it's basically SIS, which is a special section for the RPD, mostly tactical, and the traffic units. So the cars right here.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of license plates.
Yep. We'll turn here, we'll come back. Take you to J Street. We just walk past it, like I said, and walk to the lot.
All right.
And walk back. Traffic, see the traffic enforcement car.
Bag on this side. Should be able to hold this without the cord pulling.
Yeah, do all the footage. You want me to hold it for you?
Oh no, I got it. It's just between the battery and the phone.
Let me know, because I can carry the bag. A lot of protests. We did rallies here. I'll show you videos later. Did a huge rally here in 2003 for a guy that killed on the right.
You got tack units.
We got this closed off. People can use the park here. Now it's the signs are right here. You see the sign? We get a shot of that sign. There's no trespass.
Yep.
Got him again. You should have called people on the phone. We out here in Rochester, New York. my man Bullet Sponge. Check it out. I'm recording him. He's recording me. Look at that. This is a good dude right here, Rochester.
Now,
And
I do have
follows me.
my furry shirt on. This deflects all bullshit.
Great auditor right here. Great First Amendment auditor. We're over here in my old neighborhood. I came to show them around. We're in Rochester, New York. We're in Ghost Town, Rochester's west side. And we've got a sea of Rochester, New York police cruisers right here. There we go. And, we're going to be bringing you an interview with Bullet Sponge Bob shortly. We're going to ask my man some questions. Been nice enough to have me on. Being nice enough to have me on his channel, and we're kind of doing a back and forth here. I'm going to ask him a little bit about his interest in the Constitution of this great country, the United States of America, and specifically on the First Amendment. Peace.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Cross the right. That's not that.
I've learned that with lions. Because like I'm walking away, so I'll let them follow me. So, oh wait, we got crosswalk. Let's cross here. So,
That would actually be nice.
and we, yeah, I have about 200 I follow. What I try telling them is try to save going live for emergencies.
Right.
Try to record what you can and try to educate. And that's the big thing. It's not confrontate or the ones that go up there, and I'm not saying they're wrong. There's many ways to do it.
Right.
But going up there going, nah, 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 there's nothing you can do. It's like a kid. You're not, you're just alienating them.
Right.
And there's a big disconnect between the police and the public as is.
Good footage right here. They bulldozed the house that was here in the city to enlarge, to make their parking lot bigger. There was a house here with low-income folks. They bulldozed it many years ago, about 10 years ago, and they made more parking for it. You rolling?
Yep.
That's what the Rochester, New York Police Department does. Check this out. I'm on camera?
Yep.
That's what the Rochester, New York Police Department does right here. Many years ago, this is my old neighborhood. Ghost Town, Rochester's west side. We're on Child Street right now. Many years ago, there stood a house here, right? Low-income family. Disabled couple lived in this house. And what they did basically is the city of Rochester, right? Bosses of the RPD, right? Of the Rochester, New York Police Department. What they did was they hit the house with every violation in the book. A tactic that they enforce on citizens, right? And what that does is that it makes the owner of the property unable to pay the fines, unable to perhaps bring the property up to code. I'm all against slumlords, trust me. But there's also a tactic that the city uses that when they want a property, like I'll explain in a minute what they did here. When they want a property, they'll do anything and everything in the book. And they'll go through all the loopholes because they got lawyers, right? They got lawyers on the payroll, right? So they know what to do. So long story short, they ended up with a gentleman lost the house to the city. The owner, the city bulldozed the property just so they can do this. Walk this way a little bit. Just so they can make more parking for cops. It's Rochester, New York.
I'd like to sit in the budget meetings sometime. That's one thing I'm good at is numbers.
This would be a good shot here if it's rolling. Is it rolling?
Yep. And make sure you're in the center cam here.
We're still on Child Street. My childhood street, Child Street. Right here, we're passing over 490. This is Rochester, New York's main interstate that cuts east and west.
Now, just so you get a scale, everybody, of Rochester, That is where I'm parked.
Yep.
Way over there. The white building is the Lincoln Tower, and the black one is Xerox Square. I used to work there at my first job as Xerox, second floor from the top,
Nice.
on the south side.
And then little fun fact, I don't know how much you can zoom in, but that building that looks like it has a flying saucer on top, that's Rochester history right there. That building, the restaurant used to be called Changing Scenes. And the reason it was called that is because it rotated. It went all the way 360 degrees in an hour. So it used to be a very popular restaurant, closed many years ago. But if you were dining out up there in that restaurant, it would take a whole hour for the restaurant to spin around, which would give you basically a 360 degree view of the city of Rochester.
But, as a matter of fact, there were two drunks once up top of there arguing about the wind patterns in Rochester. One goes, you know, if you jump off this balcony here, you'd never hit the ground and just blow you right back up. The other drunk goes, no, no way, this is not happening. The first drunk goes, I'll show you. He leaps over the balcony. Ta-da! The second drunk, it's just far out, man. It's just far out. I gotta try it. He leaps over. First drunk goes back to the bar, orders a drink, the bartender brings it to him, says, man, you're a mean drunk, Superman.
Oh! I was waiting for the guy, bro. I was like, wait a minute.
I came up with that.
I thought you were going to say elastic band, but yeah, that makes no sense. That's some shit, bro.
Now, I did have a question about your dad. When he was cop blocking, did you know it when you were young?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I accompanied him on a lot of. You want me to kind of start? I don't mind doing the questions how you want. Or you want me to do like a little intro?
Yeah, well, we're introing into your old house here. And I figured a good reason way to talk about is talk about your dad.
So this right here, a lot of memories right here in this empty city lot. We're on Child Street, Rochester, New York's west side. And this is 184 Child Street. My childhood home stood here. It was bulldozed a few years ago. And a lot of memories.
So my mom still has my dad's house, and they separated a long time ago. And a long story, she ended up getting the house, but he tried keeping it. They made a deal for kids. You get the kids, I'll get the house, stuff like that. But
right, like split.
Right, but she got the house, and I still call it my house. There's tons of memories there, good memories and bad memories for me too.
I guess it's a mix here too. A lot of good memories, but a lot of bad ones. I've written about this, so a lot of people that are maybe familiar with my blog and my YouTube channel will recognize that. I actually wrote a piece for my blog titled 184 Child Street, and but this is where it all started. As far as the activism goes, it started in 1986 right here with two overzealous Rochester, New York cops named Randall, nicknamed Rambo Benjamin, and Mark Mariano, who was a rookie at the time. And basically what happened is they illegally broke into our home, kicked down our front door, terrorized me and my family, threatened to shoot my dog, ridiculed us, laughed at us. When my brother, who was older, basically told them that what they did was illegal and unconstitutional, Rambo Benjamin, who to this day, 30 some odd years later, still works for the RPD in major crimes, a homicide investigator, laughed in my brother's face and said to him, "Who are you, Perry Mason?" Obviously ridiculed him with, those that are familiar with Perry Mason, it was a lawyer, Orson Welles played a lawyer. And basically he took my brother's statement when my brother told him that what they had done to me and my family, to our family, was illegal and unconstitutional. And that just shows you the lack of respect that the RPD has for citizens, even to this day. Now the only difference is, we're talking 1980s, we're talking no smartphones like you're holding. We're talking no internet like we know today.
Right.
I mean, in one way or another, the internet's been around since the 60s. A lot of people don't realize it with emails and whatnot. But I'm talking about the internet that we know today, where from point, shoot, and upload, it takes a matter of minutes, if that, right?
Right. So
my dad, we moved here in 1980. I was born here, we went to Miami, and in 1980, my dad had the crazy idea of coming back up north. We came, we settled in here. Actually, it was September 11, I'll never forget, 1980, 9/11 of 1980. And the footage that you got earlier, and you'll get some later, of the RPD station down the street, that was Maple section. Now over here in this house that's still here, lived an old gentleman, and I'm not going to mention his names or whatever. He had an addiction. He was an alcoholic. And that was as a 10-year-old child that came here, it was my first experience seeing how nasty the alcoholism can be. The gentleman was literally a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When he was sober, seriously, when he was sober, the nicest old man on the block, would fix my bike, would offer my dad help with anything. Great person. When he drank, and I'm not saying just a casual social drinker, when he got drunk, he was the meanest SOB that you could meet, the most racist. So much so that when we were backing a U-Haul up here in 1980, He was drunk off his ass in his porch. And the first thing he told us, the welcome that we got it, I'll never forget it. I was 9, about to be 10 years old, 2 months later, is in Cuba, he said in Germany, he was German, we used to hang dogs. So you better make sure your fucking dogs don't make a noise. We moved up here with 3 dogs. And my dad was a huge animal lover, always rescuing animals, huge dog lover. My mom was a cat person. You know, I'm more like my dad, I love dogs. So long story short, my dad befriended him and would let him borrow money, which he quickly realized what he was doing with the money. It was booze money, it was drinking money. What he would do in turn is he would beat his wife, a 60-something-year-old woman. Beat her, give her black eyes. The woman would run off that porch right there, up to our porch, at all times of the day, including night, early morning, knocking on the door, crying, bleeding, bruised up. My dad would give her the phone, help her, bring her in, give her shelter. She would call the police would come down, they would arrest him. In the morning, she'd be downtown. I don't want to press charges. And so went the vicious cycle of living with an alcoholic. And the woman was a beautiful person. She didn't want to hurt her husband, but she was getting her ass kicked every night. My dad cut him off when he found out about the abuse, said, I'm not giving you another cent. I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want to talk to you. His revenge was to call the police and lie on my dad and say that my dad threatened him with a gun and that my dad had a gun in the house. The police came. That's when Mark Mariano and Randall Benjamin threatened my dad and said, we need to go in the house. We got to call about a gun. My dad, who had just years earlier had come from Cuba, right, a dictatorship, a police state, a totalitarian government, who knew his rights here, who knew how the police was in Cuba, said, you can't come in my home without a warrant signed by a magistrate or a judge. They gave 2 shits about what my dad had to say. They basically told him, if you don't open the door, let us in, we're coming in one way or another. And they did. My dad quickly went inside, locked the door before he could even get the locks on. They kicked the door, they kicked through the panels. I was in the house. My first time seeing just how abusive, corrupt, and rogue police in this country can be. Mind you, this was 86, this came just a few years after I went to 21 school, my first elementary school here in Rochester, where Officer Friendly came to my school, and I was so excited, right? We got the free coloring book. We got the stranger danger speech. We got the, if you're lost or in trouble, you know, how you doing? I used to live here. I don't know if you remember me. How are you? Yes? Good to see you. You look great, by the way. You look the same. So, just people looking in, it's okay.
That's all right.
So, you remember me. I haven't seen that guy in 20 years. So, basically what happened was, they kicked the door in. They terrorized us at gunpoint. They threatened, like I said, to shoot my dog. My dog, Sonomi, a dog that I rescued from somebody who didn't want it anymore. And it's the hardest part to talk about. I'm giving you an exclusive look into my life because I don't give interviews like I used to. I don't get along with a lot of activists in the community. I don't mean Rochester, I mean in the country.
Yeah.
We'll get into that another time. There's a reason for that. But basically what I will say is that as a result of that incident, my dad became very vocal and very outspoken against police abuse, against corruption, against abuse of power.
How soon after this did he decide, you know?
Well, what happened is, this was 86. So in the ensuing 5, 6, 7 years, he became very active. And again, this is pre-internet, so most of the stuff was local. And we had a cable access channel show called La Voz del Pueblo, which is the voice of the town or the voice of the people. He went to rallies. He organized with Rochester's African-American pastors. The late Reverend Raymond Graves, great person, rest in peace. Very, very good man. Not one of these preachers who preach behind the pulpit on Sunday mornings and then, you know, that's it. the ones that pose for a quick photo op when there's a homicide. Reverend Graves came from the South, so he knew. He came from the Bull Connor era. He was a Southern preacher and somebody that really truly cared about, you know, injustice. And he brought that passion from the South here to Rochester. And so my dad became very active. As a result of a lawsuit we had against the city of Rochester for what Randall Benjamin and Mark Mariano did to our family. They destroyed dresser drawers, they overturned mattresses, they tore the whole house up at gunpoint. They jacked me up against the upstairs wall. As a result of that, and my dad's outspokenness and a lawsuit against the city, the Rochester, New York Police Department did something that a lot of police forces throughout the country do, but it's often never hardly talked about. And this is one of my biggest beefs with a lot of these so-called activists. It's okay to cover one thing, but at some point, you have to present new stuff and you have to address new stuff, like the phenomenon that police do to citizens, which is basically a sort of psychological warfare. It's intimidation. It's harassment. In 92 sometime, fell into a very, very bad deep depression. My dad stopped being outgoing, stopped socializing with the groups here in Rochester, stopped speaking out. And a lot of it was that breakdown that he went through where literally, if he would go to the corner store for a gallon of milk or to play a lottery, 9 times out of 10, if a cop saw him, he would fuck with him. He would stop him. He would roll the window down. Mario, if I run a 29 on you, would anything come back? The 29 is a background check. It's basically a check on your record. Do you have any outstanding warrants? You know what I mean? Are you wanted?
And back then they would stop you and run it anyhow, even if you argued.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of other times, he would use my car because, you know, the driveway was right here. So if my car was last and his was first, he would naturally take mine. Well, what they would do is they would, you know, do the, hit the alarm, get right behind him, all the way till he came back and pulled in the driveway. So they would do again. It's all psychological. It's basically something that still exists today, but it started decades ago. It's that don't fuck with us if you even have the nerve to stand up to us. And this goes for all government officials, especially law enforcement. If you even dare to stand up to us, to expose us, to criticize us, to talk about us, to take a stand against us, you will pay. And like I said, to me that's worse than any beating. Because once they get into your head, once you fear leaving your home, once you fear going about your normal day-to-day life and day-to-day activities, they got you. They're in their head. They're in your head. And unfortunately, that's what happened. So my dad just fell into a bad depression. And on July 9, 1993, right here, I was downstairs. My dad was upstairs. We had an appointment that 12th, which would have been that Monday, 3 days after that Friday. Actually, today's a Friday. And we had an appointment to go have him see someone, a counselor, to go, have him talk to somebody. And he came downstairs. I was watching a show, which I can't watch to this day, Unsolved Mysteries. My mom was in the kitchen cooking. He came downstairs and he said, David, I need to talk to you. And I ain't think nothing of it. This is why those that follow my work or maybe were familiar with my work will know that I'm always saying if a loved one, a friend, anyone ever tells you they need to talk to you, try to make that time. We get so caught up in our daily activities, right? Our daily life. A lot of the times petty stuff that we forget what's important. I don't know what he was going to tell me. And unfortunately, I'll never know. Less than 5 minutes after he went back upstairs, I said, yeah, I'll be right up. And before I could even get a chance to get up, I heard a loud explosion. And, my dad committed suicide in his room, in his bedroom. And, he left a note which basically said to the effect of, just tired of going on, you know what I mean? And just tired of going on. He didn't want to do it anymore.
Let's take a break here for a minute. And we're running.
So July 9, 1993, my dad committed suicide. And, you know, it's something that I hold the RPD in large part responsible for. Because, and it's not all of them, you know what I mean? Actually, to show that it's not all of them, the first people to go to my dad's wake, they were there before we were there. And they came in early before they opened the doors. And it was Rochester, New York police officer Ron Fontaine, a very good friend of my dad, a great person, was just broken. This man was crying at my dad's wake. He respected my dad, he loved my dad. Ron Fontaine, great police officer. Detective D'Ambrosio, Sal Rubio, Detective D'April, and Tom Dean. So the first 5 people to sign the book at my dad's wake all had the same title after their name, RPD. Section 2, by the way, which is
The one we just went.
tactical section nowadays, but that was Maple section. You know, Rochester, New York over the years has gone over different changes when it comes to police, and there were different sections. Section 2 was Maple section, which is Maple Street, they call it Maple section. Section 3 was Genesee Street, Section 1 was Lake, and so on. What I wanted to say real quick, and it's these things that, you know, I was 22 years old when my dad committed suicide, and it's one of these things that you never forget. And this is something that is always with me.